Hi folks, Stan Poktalovich here. Today I'll show you there are some times of the day that are better than others to buy and sell stock market shares. I'll also show you other times of the day when it would be best not to be doing any market trading. I'll be using historical data for Google shares. So join me now and let's get the show on the road. Let me start by defining some terms that I'll be using. They are highest, second lowest, and lowest. Look at this list of numbers. When these numbers are compared to each other, 75 would be the highest value, 68 would be the second highest value, 29 would be the second lowest value, 14 would be the lowest value. I use these terms because when trading stocks, people want to sell at the high price of the day, and when buying stocks, they want to do so at the low of the day. And they know if they want to buy or sell a large block of shares, there's a better chance of doing so when the highest number of shares is changing hands. Okay, so far, let's keep going by looking at the data and processes used to prove there are better time periods during the day to buy and sell stocks. To be successful trading shares, there are some simple rules to follow. Sell shares during those time periods when either the highest or second highest prices are reached. Buy shares during those time periods when the stock is either at the second lowest or lowest prices of the day. Pay attention to the first two rules and then only buy or sell significantly large blocks of shares during those time periods when the highest or second highest number of shares of that stock are being traded. Don't trade any significantly large block of that stock during those time periods when the second lowest or lowest number of shares change hands. Now you're probably asking, how can I know when those time periods will be? Stay tuned. I'll be introducing the 15-minute metadata high-low counts report shortly to answer that question. Here's a record of stock trading activity for Google shares for each of the 15-minute time periods on one day, December 19th, 2011. Arrows point to the specific share price data to be selected for processing. The highest values are shown by green arrows piercing the red borders of the column. The second highest values are shown by green arrows outside the red borders. The second lowest values are shown by red arrows outside the red borders. The lowest values are shown by red arrows piercing the red borders of the column. Here's the data that was selected. See the 15-minute time periods that appear alongside each of the selected data items? These are the key pieces of information used to prepare the 15-minute metadata high-low counts report. This is an example of that report updated only with December 19th data. The left half deals with counts for each of the 15-minute time periods that relate to price points reached. The right half deals with statistics for the 15-minute time periods related to the number of shares traded. Both parts of this report have been updated to reflect the number of times that each of the corresponding conditions occurred for that day. And you can also see the column totals have also been updated accordingly. Okay, now let's see what this report looks like using the selected trading activity for Google shares. This is from 9:30 a.m. January 3rd, 2011 and until the market close at 4 p.m. December 30th, 2011. That's 252 days of real data. In this report, you'll see the total number of times for each of the 15-minute periods when the share price and number of shares traded each reached their highest levels, second highest levels, second lowest levels, and lowest levels. And you'll also notice that the results for each of these sections in the report have been sorted in descending sequence by the number of occurrences. Here's the report. Let's see if we can find the better 15-minute time periods to either buy or sell those Google shares. Let's look at the upper left half of the report. See those 15-minute time periods nearest the top of the highest and second highest columns, those with a larger count of occurrences and associated percentage values? Statistically speaking, those time periods might be considered the better ones during which to sell Google shares. On the other hand, those time periods near the top of the second lowest and lowest columns, the ones with the larger number of occurrences and associated percentage values, they would be the better ones for buying those shares. Now let's see what we can find by focusing on price point occurrences again. We can see that compared to all of the other time periods of the day, there's a larger number of occurrences for both the highest and lowest price points being reached during the first 30 minutes of the day. Furthermore, it's quite obvious that for a majority of the times, the price point highs and lows occur during the first 90 minutes and the final 30 minutes of trading. If you trade Google shares, you need to be aware of these details. Here are some price point facts that are not shown in this report that you may wish to consider. Price volatility for Google shares can occur during 15-minute time periods. For example, on 5 of those 252 days, both the highest and lowest price points for these shares were recorded during the first 15 minutes of trading. And when comparing the 9:30 and 15:45 time periods, there were 15 days when the highest price point was recorded during the 9:30 time period and the lowest price point recorded during the 15:45 time period. There were 7 days when the opposite happened and the highest price point was recorded during the 15:45 time period, while the lowest price point was recorded during the 9:30 time period. These are just some of the facts that can be seen when going through the 15-minute metadata detail report. I'll be reviewing that report in a future video presentation. It will show you how you can take advantage of a stock's various price point gaps. Okay, let's get back to the report. Now we're looking at the upper right part. When looking to buy or sell really large blocks of these shares, then the right half of the table is a place to look at to identify the better time periods to do so. The highest and second highest columns shown there with the larger number of occurrences and associated percentage values might be the better choices to do so. Furthermore, those time periods near the top of the second lowest and lowest columns in that section would probably need to be avoided. So now let's focus again on the upper right half of the report, the part that deals with share trading activity. We can see that compared to all of the other time periods of the day, statistically speaking, a greater number of shares usually traded during a 15-minute time period starting either at 9:30 or 15:45. The 9:45 time period also showed noticeable amounts of trading. So, if you want to trade a significantly large block of Google shares, you need to take these two facts into consideration, or else you may run the risk of only seeing a partial fill of your order. Here's another important piece of information for you to consider. When looking at the occurrence counts for the 15-minute time periods showing the second lowest and lowest number of shares traded, it's very easy to see that traders don't buy or sell large blocks of Google shares during those time periods. Now let's review some details regarding the column totals for both sections of the report. There are reasons why the price point columns here show totals that differ from each other. When the price of a stock only fluctuates over a narrow range, then it's quite possible for the exact same high or low prices in one 15-minute time period to occur again in another 15-minute time period. That in turn would cause the occurrence count for those 15-minute time periods to increase accordingly. This type of information is good to know because the more often the lowest price point occurs during a day, the more chances to be able to buy the stock at a lower price on that day. Likewise, the more often the highest price point is reached during a day, the better the chances to sell the stock at the higher price. Let's look at the column totals for the right half of the table dealing with share volume occurrence counts. These column totals usually each show the exact same value. The reason for this happening is because it's extremely rare for the total volume of shares traded in one 15-minute time period to occur again in another 15-minute time period. And with that being the case, because the highest, second lowest, and lowest levels only occur once per day, then as a rule, each event occurs only once per day. Therefore, those column totals would show the same count as the total number of trading days covered by the report. And this is the case for Google shares. This report was for a period of time covering 252 days. And as you can see, each of those column totals also show the number 252. Here's a variation of this 15-minute high-low count report after each column has been sorted in ascending sequence by 15-minute time period. Look towards the bottom of this report. Compare the price totals for the first half of the day to the corresponding totals for the second half of the day. Does this stock seem to have a preference to reach its highest and lowest price points during the first half of the day or the second half of the day? And as far as trying to identify the part of the day that experiences the largest number of shares, does the first half of the day see more shares being traded, but does most of that activity occur during the first 15 minutes of trading? What time periods during the last half of the day have the highest trading activity? Is it only the final 15-minute period of the day? Knowing these details can be important and make a difference if you're looking to buy or sell Google shares. So in conclusion, I trust you found the facts I presented do support my assertion that there are better times of the day to trade stock market shares. And furthermore, you can also see that there are other times of the day when it's probably better not to be buying or selling these shares. In addition to the 15-minute high-low counts report, there are other metadata reports mentioned today by me that you might find useful. As soon as I have completed video presentations on each of these reports, I'll make them available for viewing. If you wish to be notified about those presentations, please let me know. There's also much more information available on stock metadata that can help you familiarize yourself with the topic. Given that I've been using stock market trading data for Google shares as examples for this presentation, let's use the services of that company to find more information related to this topic. If you do a search for the term stock metadata, you'll get back millions of hits. The best information comes from those sites that can answer the question, why use metadata, and show you each of the reports defined. Well, this concludes my presentation. If you have any comments, please send them to me at yourcomments@hotmail.com. Thank you for watching.